The coffee was still hot when it splashed across the documents. Dark brown liquid spreading across crisp white paper, soaking through corporate financial statements worth $2.3 million. But Marcus Whitfield didn't care about the papers. He cared about making a point. You think you can just walk in here with dirty money? His voice carried across the marble floors of Premier Atlantic Bank's flagship Miami location. You think we don't know what this is? The woman standing across from his desk didn't flinch. She simply watched the coffee destroy her documents, her face completely calm. She wore a simple grey cardigan over a white blouse, worn jeans, and practical flats. Her natural hair was pulled back in a modest ponytail. Nothing about her screamed wealth. Nothing about her suggested she belonged in this temple of glass and gold on Brickell Avenue. But nobody knew who Veronica Hayes really was. And that Tuesday afternoon, in March of 2023, everything was about to change. If you believe that justice should reach those who discriminate based on appearance, and that hidden power makes the best plot twist, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Now, let's get into what really happened that day. Veronica had walked into Premier Atlantic Bank at 2:45 p.m. on a humid Tuesday afternoon. The air conditioning hit her immediately as the heavy glass doors closed behind her. The lobby was designed to intimidate. 30-foot ceilings, Italian marble floors that echoed with every footstep, massive abstract art pieces that probably cost more than most people's homes. She approached the reception desk with a small leather folder under her arm. The receptionist, a young woman named Ashley, looked up from her computer screen and smiled, the kind of smile that didn't quite reach the eyes. "Can I help you?" Ashley's tone was professional but cool. Her gaze had already swept over Veronica's outfit, making calculations, making assumptions. "I need to open a corporate account," Veronica said quietly. "I have an appointment." Ashley's eyebrows rose slightly. "A corporate account? Do you have documentation?" "Yes, everything's here." Veronica placed the folder on the desk. Ashley opened it, and her expression shifted to something between confusion and suspicion. Inside were articles of incorporation, tax documents, and a cashier's check for $2.3 million made out to Premier Atlantic Bank. I'll get someone from corporate banking." Ashley's fingers trembled slightly as she picked up the phone. "Just wait here, please." Veronica stepped back and stood near the wall. She could feel eyes on her. Two personal bankers at their desks glanced over, then leaned toward each other, whispering. A security guard near the door adjusted his position, keeping her in his line of sight. An older white woman waiting in the premium banking area clutched her purse a little tighter. To everyone in that lobby, Veronica looked like she might work in housekeeping, or maybe retail. Certainly not someone who belonged in the corporate banking section. The assumption was instant, automatic, and completely wrong. Marcus Whitfield had been the branch manager of Premier Atlantic Bank's Brickell location for 6 years. He prided himself on knowing who belonged and who didn't. When Ashley called him about the situation, he already knew what he was dealing with before he even saw Veronica. "Another one of these," he muttered to his assistant manager, Stephanie Chen, as they walked toward the lobby. "Probably a scam. Fake documents. They're getting bolder." He emerged from the back offices with his suit jacket buttoned, his jaw set. He was tall, fit, with the kind of confidence that came from never being questioned. His eyes found Veronica immediately. "Ma'am, I'm Marcus Whitfield, branch manager." He didn't extend his hand. "There seems to be some confusion about your situation here." "No confusion," Veronica replied calmly. "I need to open a corporate account. I have all the documentation." Marcus smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Right. And you're trying to deposit $2.3 million in cash?" "It's a cashier's check." "From what bank?" "SunTrust. It's in the paperwork." Marcus picked up the folder Ashley had left on the reception desk. He flipped through it quickly, not really reading. "Ma'am, I'm going to be direct with you because I think someone might be taking advantage of you. This kind of money, these kinds of documents, they're often part of money laundering operations or fraud. And if you're involved even unknowingly, you could go to prison. Veronica's expression didn't change. I'm not involved in anything illegal. Then you won't mind if we verify everything very carefully. Marcus turned to the security guard. Thomas, can you come over here, please? The security guard, a broad-shouldered man in his 50s, walked over. The lobby had gone quiet. Everyone was watching now. I think we might need to call the authorities, Marcus said loudly enough for nearby customers to hear. This woman is attempting to deposit an extremely suspicious amount of money, and I have serious concerns about the legitimacy of these funds. Stephanie Chen stepped forward, her phone already out. Should I call the police or just our fraud department first? Fraud department, Marcus said. Let them decide if law enforcement needs to be involved, but get it on record. Document everything. Another banker, a young man named Ryan, had wandered over from his desk. Is this about that huge check? Ashley texted me. That's insane. Exactly what I'm saying, Marcus replied. This doesn't pass the smell test. Ashley had her phone out too, filming. My cousin's a lawyer. He says banks have to report suspicious activity. This definitely qualifies. Thomas, the security guard, crossed his arms, positioning himself between Veronica and the exit. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to stay right here while we sort this out. Veronica stood perfectly still, her hands at her sides. She didn't argue. She didn't explain. She simply waited. Marcus leaned against the reception desk, enjoying his audience. A small crowd had formed, 3 other customers, 2 more bankers, and a loan officer who'd heard the commotion. They formed a loose semicircle around Veronica, their expressions ranging from curious to hostile. You know what I think? Marcus continued, his voice taking on a lecturing tone. I think someone gave you these documents, told you to come in here, open an account, deposit this money. Promised you a cut, right? Maybe 5, 10%. That's how these things work. Ryan laughed. That would be like $200,000. Not bad for a day's work. Until you're arrested, Stephanie added, still filming. Federal prison for money laundering is serious time. Ashley nodded vigorously. My cousin prosecuted a case like this. Woman thought she was helping her boyfriend's business. Turned out to be a drug trafficking operation. She got 15 years. An older customer, a man in an expensive suit, spoke up. Young lady, you should listen to them. If you're in over your head, now's the time to come clean. Veronica's eyes moved to him briefly, then back to Marcus. She said nothing. Marcus walked around the desk until he was standing directly in front of Veronica. He was close enough that she had to tilt her head slightly to maintain eye contact. Let's talk about these documents, he said, picking up the folder again. Articles of incorporation for Hayes Capital Management LLC, filed in Delaware. Convenient. Do you even know what Delaware incorporation means? It's where people hide things. He flipped to the next page. Tax ID number could be fake. We'll have to verify. Cashier's check from SunTrust for $2.3 million. Could be counterfeit. The paper feels right, but they're getting good at that now. He held up the check, examining it like a jeweler studying a suspicious diamond. Then he set it down on the desk and reached for his coffee cup, a large Premier Atlantic Bank branded tumbler filled with dark roast. Here's what's going to happen, Marcus said, his tone shifting to something harder. We're going to verify every single thing in this folder. That could take days, maybe weeks, and if any of it doesn't check out, even one detail, I'm calling the FBI personally. Do you understand? Veronica nodded once. I understand. Do you want to tell me where this money really came from? Last chance for honesty. It came from my company's operating account at SunTrust. We're moving our banking relationship. Marcus laughed, a short, sharp sound. Your company, right? And what does your company do? Real estate investment and asset management. Oh, real estate, of course. He picked up his coffee cup. Let me guess, you buy houses, flip them, or maybe you're a real estate agent, is that it? Neither. Then what? Marcus's hand jerked as he gestured and the coffee cup tipped. Hot liquid poured out, splashing directly onto the document spread across the desk. It soaked through the articles of incorporation, the tax forms, the cashier's check. Dark brown stains spread across everything. "Oh, damn," Marcus said, but his tone was utterly unconcerned. He didn't move to stop the flow, didn't reach for napkins. He just watched the coffee destroy the papers. "That's unfortunate. Guess you'll need to get new copies of everything." Stephanie gasped, but she kept filming. Ryan openly laughed. Ashley had her hand over her mouth, her eyes wide with shock and barely suppressed amusement. The security guard, Thomas, shifted his weight but said nothing. Marcus set the empty cup down and brushed his hands together as if wiping them clean. "Like I said, this is going to take time to sort out. And honestly, ma'am, I don't think you should be banking here anyway. This is Premier Atlantic. We serve established businesses with legitimate funding sources and verified histories, not whatever this is." He waved dismissively at the coffee-soaked documents. Veronica looked down at her papers. The check was completely ruined, the numbers bleeding into illegibility. Months of financial documentation destroyed in seconds. She reached forward slowly and began gathering the wet pages, carefully stacking them despite the damage. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked. "Those are evidence now. You can't take them. They're my property. They're potential evidence in a fraud investigation. Leave them here." Veronica continued collecting the papers, her movements deliberate and calm. Coffee dripped from the pages onto the marble floor. Marcus grabbed her wrist, not violently, but firmly. "I said leave them." The lobby had gone completely silent. 8 people watched. 3 phones were recording. And Veronica Hayes, director of one of the largest private equity firms in Florida, stood with coffee-soaked documents in her hands and a bank manager's fingers wrapped around her wrist. Veronica looked down at Marcus's hand on her wrist. She didn't pull away. She didn't jerk back or raise her voice. She simply looked at it as if observing something mildly interesting. Then she raised her eyes to meet his. "Let go of my wrist," she said quietly. Not a shout, not a threat, just a statement of fact, delivered in a voice so steady it could have been discussing the weather. Marcus hesitated. Something in her eyes made him uncomfortable, though he couldn't have explained why. He released her wrist and stepped back. Veronica finished collecting her documents. She tucked them carefully into her leather folder, even though they were ruined. Then she smoothed down her cardigan and adjusted the strap of her purse over her shoulder. "Are we finished?" she asked. Marcus crossed his arms. "You're free to go. But don't think about trying this at another bank. We're going to report this activity. Every major bank in South Florida will have your name flagged by end of business today." Veronica nodded once. She turned toward the door. "And ma'am," Marcus called after her, "next time someone offers you easy money to move dirty cash, think about whether it's worth your freedom." Veronica stopped. For just a moment, everyone thought she might turn around, might finally react with anger or tears or some kind of breakdown. But she didn't. She simply stood there, her back straight, her head high. Then she walked to the door. Her footsteps echoed on the marble. Thomas, the security guard, moved aside to let her pass. The heavy glass door closed behind her with a soft hydraulic hiss. The lobby remained silent for 3 full seconds after she left. Then Marcus clapped his hands together. "All right, show's over. Ryan, file the suspicious activity report. Stephanie, send that video to compliance. Ashley, get the fraud department on the phone. Let's make sure this doesn't come back on us." People returned to their desks. The customers who'd been watching went back to their transactions. Within 5 minutes, the lobby looked normal again. But nobody understood the significance of what they'd just witnessed. Did you notice the calm with which she left? Could you maintain that level of dignity? Leave your answer in the comments. By 4 p.m., Marcus was back in his office feeling satisfied. He'd protected his bank. He'd prevented potential fraud. He'd done his job exactly right. But at 4:15, something strange happened. His desk phone rang. The caller ID showed the fraud department's direct line. "Marcus Whitfield," he answered. "Marcus, it's Jennifer in fraud. I'm looking at the SAR you just filed, and I need you to send me those documents immediately. They're coffee-soaked, but I can scan them." "You destroyed the documents?" Jennifer's voice had an edge to it. "It was an accident. Coffee spill, but they're still readable enough to—" "Marcus, what was the name on the incorporation papers?" "Hayes Capital Management, Delaware Corporation." There was a pause. Marcus could hear Jennifer typing rapidly. "And the woman's name?" "She didn't actually give me her full name, just said she was from the company." More typing, then silence. "Jennifer, Marcus, I need you to send me everything you have, and I mean everything, right now. I'll call you back." She hung up. Marcus stared at his phone. That was odd. Jennifer was usually chatty, friendly. She'd sounded almost nervous. At 4:30, Stephanie knocked on his door. "Marcus, corporate compliance just called. They want copies of everything from that incident this afternoon. They said it's urgent. I just sent it to fraud. They want their own copies, and they want the security footage." "Security footage?" "From the cameras in the lobby. They specifically requested the full interaction with that woman." Marcus felt the first small twist of unease in his stomach. "Did they say why?" "No, just that it's time-sensitive and priority one." He pulled up his email and sent the documents again. Then he called Thomas in security to have the footage pulled. At 5 p.m., Marcus's personal cell phone rang. Unknown number. "Marcus Whitfield." "Mr. Whitfield, this is Catherine Reeves from Premier Atlantic's regional office in Jacksonville. I'm the Vice President of Risk Management for Florida Operations. Do you have a moment?" Marcus sat up straighter. "Of course, Ms. Reeves. What can I do for you?" "I need you to walk me through exactly what happened with a customer this afternoon, a woman attempting to open a corporate account." Marcus explained the situation, emphasizing the suspicious amount of money, the vague documentation, the woman's appearance that didn't match the claimed business profile. "And you refused to serve her?" Catherine asked. "I didn't refuse service. I initiated standard fraud protocols. I was protecting the bank. By destroying her documents and physically restraining her." Marcus's mouth went dry. "The coffee was an accident, and I barely touched her wrist. I was trying to preserve evidence." "Evidence? Of what crime exactly?" "Potential money laundering, fraud. I filed the SR as required." "Mr. Whitfield, did you verify the cashier's check with SunTrust before accusing this woman of a crime?" No, not yet. It takes time to... It takes one phone call and about 3 minutes. Did you verify her company exists?" "Delaware corporations are hard to verify immediately." "Hayes Capital Management has a public website, Marcus, with a full staff directory, including photos. Did you look at it?" Marcus opened his laptop with shaking hands and pulled up Google. He typed, "Hayes Capital Management, Florida." The first result was their corporate website, professional, sleek, sophisticated. On the homepage was a photo of their executive team. In the center, wearing a navy business suit, was the woman from his lobby. Caption underneath, "Veronica Hayes, founder and chief executive officer." Marcus's vision started to tunnel. He clicked through to her bio page. Veronica Hayes, bachelor's from Georgetown, MBA from Wharton, former Goldman Sachs vice president, founded Hayes Capital Management in 2015. Current assets under management, $18 billion, specializes in commercial real estate investment focusing on sustainable development and urban renewal projects throughout the Southeast. Board member of 3 Fortune 500 companies. Advisory Council for the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. Recipient of the Miami Business Journal's Most Influential Women in Finance Award for 2021 and 2022. There were more achievements, more credentials. Each one felt like a hammer blow. "Mr. Whitfield, are you still there?" "I'm here," Marcus whispered. "Good. I need you to remain in your office. Don't leave. Don't talk to anyone. Regional executives will be there within the hour. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma'am." The line went dead. Marcus looked at his computer screen, at Veronica Hayes's professional headshot, at her credentials, at the description of her firm managing $18 billion, and he remembered the coffee destroying her documents, his hand on her wrist, his voice carrying across the lobby. Next time someone offers you easy money to move dirty cash. His office door opened. Stephanie stood there, her face pale. Marcus, there's a problem. By 6 p.m., the video had gone viral. Not the security footage. That was locked down by the bank's legal team. But Ashley's video, filmed on her personal phone and uploaded to Twitter at 5:47 p.m. with the caption, "Branch manager at my bank just stopped a money laundering scheme. This lady tried to deposit 2.3 metos in clean money. He didn't fall for it. Banking security, protecting customers." Within 30 minutes, it had 15,000 views. Within an hour, someone had identified Veronica Hayes. The replies started coming fast. "That's not a scammer. That's Veronica Hayes. She runs an 18B investment firm. Oh my God, I just Googled her. She's legit, like seriously legit. This bank manager just humiliated one of the most powerful women in Florida finance. Watch his face when he realizes who she is. This is about to get bad." Notice how he assumed she was criminal because, yeah, we all know why. By 7 p.m., the video had 200,000 views and had been picked up by several finance Twitter accounts and local news aggregators. At 7:23 p.m., the Miami Herald's business reporter tweeted, confirming that the woman in this viral video is Veronica Hayes, CEO of Hayes Capital Management. I've reached out to both her firm and Premier Atlantic Bank for comment. This story is developing. Marcus sat in his office with the door closed, watching his career implode in real time on his phone screen. Regional executives had arrived at 6:15 p.m., 2 vice presidents and the Florida area president. They'd gone straight to the conference room and had been there for over an hour, reviewing security footage and documents. His desk phone hadn't stopped ringing. His email inbox was flooded. His personal cell had 43 missed calls. At 7:45 p.m., his office door opened. Catherine Reeves stood there with the area president, Douglas Hamilton, and the bank's chief legal counsel, whose name Marcus didn't catch through the ringing in his ears. "Mr. Whitfield, we need to talk," Douglas said. The conference room felt like a courtroom. Marcus sat on one side of the table. The 3 executives sat across from him. A laptop was open, showing the frozen frame of Ashley's video. Veronica Hayes, standing calm and still, while Marcus gestured angrily. Douglas Hamilton was in his early 60s, grey-haired, with the kind of gravitas that comes from 40 years in banking. He looked tired and angry. "Let me make sure I understand the timeline," he said, consulting his notes. "At approximately 2:45 p.m., Ms. Veronica Hayes entered your branch to open a corporate account for Hayes Capital Management. She had a cashier's check for $2.3 million from SunTrust, along with all required corporate documentation. Is that correct?" "Yes, but the amount was suspicious." Douglas held up a hand. "I'm not finished. You refused to accept the documentation, accused her of money laundering and fraud in front of multiple witnesses, destroyed her paperwork, and physically restrained her. Then you told her she would be reported and blacklisted across South Florida banking, correct?" Marcus swallowed. "I was following fraud prevention protocols. Did you verify the check was legitimate? There wasn't time. Did you call SunTrust? No. Did you verify that Hayes Capital Management exists? I intended to, but did you ask for her identification?" Marcus paused. "No. So you made no attempt whatsoever to verify her identity or the legitimacy of her business before publicly accusing her of federal crimes. She didn't look like someone with that kind of money." The words hung in the air. Catherine Reeves leaned forward. "Explain what someone with that kind of money looks like, Marcus." He knew he was trapped. "I didn't mean... It's not about race. It was her clothes, her appearance, the whole situation felt wrong. The legal counsel spoke for the first time. Mr. Whitfield, I want to be very clear about something. Ms. Hayes's firm was 3 days away from announcing a major partnership with Premier Atlantic, an $850 million contract to manage our commercial real estate investment portfolio across the Southeast. The preliminary agreements were already drafted. Marcus felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. That contract, the lawyer continued, is now terminated. Ms. Hayes's attorney called our general counsel at 5:55 p.m. to inform us that Hayes Capital will not be doing business with Premier Atlantic under any circumstances. Furthermore, they're considering legal action for discrimination, assault, and destruction of property. I didn't assault anyone. You grabbed her wrist and physically prevented her from leaving with her property. In Florida, that meets the definition of battery, and it's on video. Douglas pulled up another window on the laptop. This is Ms. Hayes's biography from her firm's website. I'm going to read some highlights. Georgetown undergraduate, Wharton MBA, 8 years at Goldman Sachs, left as a vice president at age 32, founded Hayes Capital in 2015 with $12 million in seed funding, grew it to $18 billion in assets under management within 8 years, board member of Regions Financial, NextEra Energy, and AutoNation, advisory council member for the Federal Reserve, 2-time recipient of Miami Business Journal's Most Influential Women in Finance Award. He looked up at Marcus. This is who you accused of being a drug mule. Catherine pulled out a printed document. Here's what makes this worse. 2 weeks ago, Hayes Capital submitted a formal proposal to Premier Atlantic for that $850 million contract. The proposal included a detailed breakdown of their firm's structure, credentials, and track record. That proposal crossed my desk. I approved it and sent it up the chain. It was sitting in final review with our executive committee. She slid the document across the table. On the cover page was a professional photo of Veronica Hayes, along with her full name and title. This proposal was distributed to all regional managers last Tuesday, including you. You should have recognized her the moment she walked into your branch. Marcus stared at the photo. He had a vague memory of skimming that email, seeing something about a real estate partnership, filing it away to read later. He'd never opened the attachment. I didn't see it, he whispered. That's not an excuse, Douglas said. That's confirmation of negligence. You failed to review crucial business intelligence. You failed to follow basic verification procedures, and you destroyed a relationship worth nearly $1 billion to this bank. The legal counsel leaned forward. Mr. Whitfield, as of this moment, you are suspended without pay pending a full investigation. You are not to contact any current or former employees. You are not to discuss this matter publicly, and you are not to attempt to contact Ms. Hayes or anyone associated with her firm. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings, and your access to all bank systems will be terminated immediately. Do you understand? Marcus nodded numbly. We need verbal confirmation, the lawyer said. I understand. One more thing, Douglas added. The video currently has over 500,000 views. It's on the local news. The Herald is running a full story tomorrow, and Ms. Hayes has not made any public statement yet. If she decides to tell her side of this story, it will be national news, so I suggest you retain legal counsel immediately. They stood up. The meeting was over. As Marcus was led out of the conference room by security, he passed by the lobby where it had all happened. The marble floors were still gleaming. The abstract art still hung on the walls. But everything felt different now. He thought about Veronica Hayes, walking out those doors in her simple grey cardigan, carrying her coffee-soaked documents. How she'd said nothing, how she'd simply left. He'd thought her silence meant weakness. He understood now it had meant power. The kind of power that didn't need to argue or defend or prove itself because it knew the truth would emerge without any effort at all. The next 48 hours were a masterclass in institutional collapse. Wednesday morning, the Miami Herald ran the story on their front page. banking while black finance executive humiliated at Premier Atlantic after attempting to open 2.3 Meta's account. The article was devastating. It included quotes from 3 other business owners who'd experienced similar treatment at Premier Atlantic branches. It included statements from civil rights organizations calling for investigation. It included detailed breakdowns of Veronica Hayes' credentials and the value of the lost contract. But most damaging was the quote from Veronica herself. "I walked into that bank as a customer, attempting to conduct legitimate business. I left as someone who'd been publicly accused of federal crimes, had their property destroyed, and was physically restrained, all without a single attempt to verify my identity or the legitimacy of my business. The message was clear. People who look like me are assumed to be criminals, regardless of our actual credentials or intentions. No amount of education, success, or preparation protects us from that presumption." By Wednesday afternoon, banking while black was trending nationally. The video had been viewed over 2 million times. News outlets from New York to Los Angeles were covering the story. At 2 p.m. Wednesday, Premier Atlantic's corporate headquarters in Jacksonville issued a statement. "Premier Atlantic Bank does not tolerate discrimination of any kind. The employee involved in Tuesday's incident has been terminated immediately. We are conducting a full review of our policies and procedures, and we have reached out to Ms. Hayes to offer our sincere apologies. We are committed to ensuring this never happens again." Terminated. Not suspended. Terminated. Marcus learned about it from a text message from a former colleague. "Dude, you're out. They just announced it company-wide. I'm sorry." By Wednesday evening, the consequences expanded beyond Marcus. Stephanie Chen, the assistant manager who'd filmed on her phone and suggested calling police, was placed on unpaid leave pending investigation. Ashley, the receptionist who'd posted the video with celebratory commentary, was fired for violating the bank's social media policy and customer privacy guidelines. Ryan, the banker who'd laughed and made jokes, received a formal written warning and was transferred to a back-office position with no customer contact. Thomas, the security guard who'd blocked Veronica's exit, was fired by the bank's security contractor. But the biggest consequence hit Thursday morning. At 9 a.m., Premier Atlantic's board of directors held an emergency meeting. By 11 a.m., they'd made their decision. Douglas Hamilton, the Florida area president who'd overseen the region where this happened, was asked to resign. He submitted his resignation, effective immediately. The board also announced the creation of a $50 million initiative for diversity training, policy review, and community investment in underserved areas. And they announced the termination of Premier Atlantic's relationship with 3 other vendors, pending review of discrimination complaints. The stock price dropped 3% in 2 days, a loss of approximately $600 million in market capitalization. Thursday afternoon, Marcus sat in his living room watching the news coverage. His phone had stopped ringing, not because people had stopped calling, but because he'd turned it off. His lawyer had advised him to stay silent, stay home, and prepare for possible civil litigation. His wife had taken their kids to her mother's house. Not permanently, she'd said, just until things settled down. His LinkedIn profile had been viewed 17,000 times in 2 days, not by recruiters, by people leaving comments, "Racist. Hope you never work in banking again. You destroyed your career for what? Because you couldn't imagine a black woman could be successful." His name was now permanently linked to this incident. Every future employer who Googled him would find this story. Every background check would flag it. His career in banking, 22 years of work, climbing from teller to branch manager, was over. On Friday, 72 hours after Veronica Hayes had walked calmly out of his bank, Marcus received a certified letter. It was from Hayes Capital Management's legal counsel, a civil lawsuit for discrimination, battery, destruction of property, and defamation. They were seeking $2.3 million in damages, exactly the amount of the check he'd destroyed. The letter noted that Ms. Hayes would be donating any settlement or judgment to organizations fighting financial discrimination. Marcus set the letter down and stared at his hands. The same hands that had spilled coffee on those documents. The same hands that had grabbed her wrist. He'd thought he was protecting his bank. He'd thought he was doing his job. He'd thought he knew who belonged and who didn't. He'd been catastrophically wrong. 6 months later, the consequences were still reverberating. Marcus Whitfield never worked in banking again. After 18 months of unemployment and a drained savings account, he took a job in retail management, making 1/3 of his former salary. The civil lawsuit was settled out of court for an undisclosed amount, paid primarily by Premier Atlantic's insurance. His marriage ended in divorce. Stephanie Chen left banking entirely and moved to Colorado to live with family. Ashley struggled to find work after her role in the incident went viral. Eventually, she deleted all her social media accounts and enrolled in community college. Ryan remained at Premier Atlantic in a back-office role, but was passed over for every promotion. He left the company 2 years later. Thomas, the security guard, retired early. Premier Atlantic implemented comprehensive anti-discrimination training across all branches and created an independent review board for customer complaints. But the damage to their reputation was lasting. They lost competitive bids on 3 major contracts worth over $1 billion combined, with decision-makers citing concerns about company culture. And Veronica Hayes. She never spoke about the incident again publicly after that initial statement. She didn't need to. Her work spoke for itself. Hayes Capital Management grew to $22 billion in assets under management. They expanded into new markets, developed sustainable housing initiatives in underserved communities, and became one of the most respected firms in commercial real estate investment. Veronica continued serving on boards, advising the Federal Reserve, and mentoring young women of color entering finance. She received the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2025 for her contributions to economic development and financial inclusion. When asked about the incident in a rare interview 2 years later, she said simply, "I've spent my entire career proving that excellence has no color. What happened that day wasn't about me personally. It was about the assumptions people make every single day about who deserves respect, who deserves dignity, and who deserves the benefit of the doubt. I'm fortunate that I had the resources and platform to address it. Most people don't." The reporter asked if she'd forgiven the people involved. Veronica smiled. Forgiveness implies they've asked for it. They haven't. What they did wasn't a mistake or a misunderstanding. It was the logical outcome of their beliefs about people who look like me. And those beliefs cost them everything, their jobs, their reputations, their futures. That's not my doing. That's justice. This case reminds us that nobody should be judged by their appearance. Justice, when it arrives, is complete and irreversible. Did you notice the signs throughout this story that something was wrong? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this story of poetic justice, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Leave a like if this story resonated with you, and share it with someone who believes that hidden power makes the best plot twist.